Hello and welcome to my channel, Fibre Files. I'm Jessie. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am a sewist and a knitter and a lover of fiber arts, and I have some more projects to share with you today. I've really been on a sewing kick the past few weeks, and I think saying aloud some of the projects that I wanted to do and wanted to sew on the last episode really motivated me to actually finish many of the things I had cut out. So I have a lot of finished objects for you today in the sewing and knitting categories. So come along with me, and I hope you have something cozy to work on while we chat. I'll share briefly what I'm wearing today. So I happened to just put this on. I talked about it briefly in the last episode that I had made some alterations to it to make it more wearable. This is a set that I made last summer. It is a pair of Saguaro pants just cut into shorts with about a 3-inch inseam. I usually cut it to about more like 5, and then I have a deep like 2-inch hem on my shorts like I like to have. And then I paired it with a Demeter top. So the Demeter dress and top, it's a top, and I just did the tank version. But what I had done previously is made a size too large for me, thinking that it would be cute and boxy and chic. But since that's not how the pattern is designed, it just looked like it was too big for me. And so it looked a little frumpy, and I never wore it. So last month when I shared that I had taken in both sides of the top, and then I also shortened the shorts. I had made them too long, and they were a little too camp counselor, and so I also wasn't wearing them. So now I am wearing them, and since it's 100 degrees every day here in Atlanta, I put this on today while I'm at home. The first finished object that I have for you today is my Comebackigan. And this is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. I started this last year when it came out, and as I talked about on the last episode, I didn't love the immediate fit of the sleeve, and so I sort of put it on hold for a while. But then this year, I had sort of a revelation that I love cardigans, and I wear them the most. You might be able to see in the photos that I've shared off to the side that there is sort of a line in the knitting where the dye lot must have been different between the two skeins of yarn. I didn't even notice that until I honestly took a photo of it. It doesn't really show up in person all that much. You can kind of see it on the front as well, but it's pretty subtle, and the texture is so good on this cardigan that I also don't really think that you notice it. This is a really fun cardigan for a couple of reasons. One, as I mentioned last time, the texture is so good so that if you have to knit a body flat when you make a cardigan, let me backtrack. When you make a cardigan, oftentimes you're having to knit the entire garment all the way knit and then all the way back purl. And purling is fine, but I don't love doing endless purling. But this texture means that every side is an engaging side. It's just a combination of knits and purls that make the texture. So you're doing the same number of knits and purls on both sides, and so it doesn't feel onerous at all. So that's a pro of this cardigan. I also did not do the pockets. That's a modification that I made. And another fun thing about this cardigan, in my opinion, is that you make the sleeves first. And so you then make the body from the bottom up. And then when you get to the point where everything would meet, you pick up everything on your needles, and then you do decreases to create the raglan. Instead of, if it was from the top down, it would be, you would do your increases first, and then you put your stitches for the sleeves on hold. What I like about that form is that by the time you get to the raglan, which is a part of knitting that I really, really love doing, by the time you get to the raglan, you're almost done with the sweater. So that is a very, very satisfying part. That's a very, very satisfying part of this cardigan. Now, there is a double knit button band. So, you know, was she actually close to being done with the cardigan? Not as close as she thought, but it was really fun. And as I said on the last episode too, I decided to do this cardigan. What part of the reason that I came back to this cardigan was actually that I enjoyed doing a double knit button band in worsted weight. I didn't love doing it in fingering weight. It took forever. But I'm still really, really pleased with it. As a person whose ribbing is almost always very, very loose, this just looks so good, so nice. When I blocked it, the sleeves did get quite a bit longer, and I had already made really long sleeves. And so actually, if I uncuff this, it's pretty long. I wanted this to be a really cozy sweater, and I think it hits me at the perfect length. And so I'm really great with that. But I would warn other folks, if you're making this cardigan, I didn't do a gauge swatch because to me, the sleeve is my gauge swatch when you're doing, it's another benefit of a sleeve first cardigan. But I would just warn other knitters that it did grow quite a bit, especially on the sleeves. I did the standard length that I love for a cardigan, which is about 10 inches from the underarm, maybe 11 depending on the ribbing. And I think that's about what I did here. It grew a little bit on the length in the body after blocking, but not as much as the sleeves. But I still feel like the length is really, really ideal. It hits right at my kind of high hip where I like cardigans to hit, where I can wear them with pants. Or other things I might want to wear them with. So that is the Comebackigan. This yarn is Mondim by Rosa Pomar and La Bien-Aimée. It's their like combination or their collaboration that they did together. And the color is, I think it's specific to Black Mountain Yarn Shop. I think it might be their custom color, although I've seen it for sale other places. But when I went there, I felt like they were really obsessed with that color, and that's where I bought this yarn. I bought it from when we visited Asheville last year and visited Black Mountain Yarn Shop. So this color is a really, really great neutral. It's like just interesting enough, kind of teal blue, very pale, maybe seafoam. But it's like basically a neutral in my wardrobe. It will look good with, you know, whatever I should want to put with it. So I'm really, really pleased about that. And this little sneaky peek of another finished object. So I'm gonna stick with knitting for a moment and show you one more knitting finished object and then a knitting work in progress. And then later in the episode, I'll show you more of my sewing makes. All right, so the next item I would like to share with you is a finished pair of socks. And these are already a little bit stretched out. They are ribbed socks because I've been wearing them to sleep at night. So they're a little bit stretched out already, but they are very lovely. These are the double rib crew socks, which is a pattern by Summer Lee Knits. And she released it last year. But it's a very distinct type of heel that's not the heel flap and gusset, and it's not a fleagle heel or something like that. These are knit from the cuff down, and so it was a really interesting heel construction, and I really liked it. I also felt like the ribbing, having a sock be all over ribbing, might help with someone whose tension is consistently too loose, and her socks always come out a little bit baggy. These have stretch, and so they are a little bit baggy. They're definitely not something I could wear with shoes for that reason, but they're still very cozy. But I was like, oh, maybe the ribbing will actually help, you know, keep everything tight. I still had to use a size 0 needle, which I think is I think she calls for a size 1, so I sized down there. But like they came out, you know, they fit my feet, which is successful in my opinion. The only modification I made actually is that I accidentally carried the ribbing. Once you get done with the heel, you're supposed to do just stockinette on the foot so that it's smoother on your foot when you're wearing it. And I just misread the pattern. So this is entirely all around ribbing, but I still like it. And because I wear these again to sleep or to be cozy. They're not necessarily going to be hard worn. The yarn is actually, the gray yarn is yarn that I got in Ireland when we visited last year in 2 years ago, 2024, paired with some fingering weight blue woolly yarn that I had in my stash. But it's really nice together, and I thought this was a great fun project. I am in true sometimes sock knitter. I like make one, am really excited, and then, you know, stall. Like, I think I literally made the second one, got to finished the heel, and then was like, okay, I have this much left to do. And then it sat for 6 months. So I'm really excited to have these done. I have been wearing them, and I would make this pattern again. I think Summerlee has great sock patterns. And once you kind of understand your size in her socks, you can so easily add like different components of different socks. So you could do like a specific heel, but do like add color work like she has, or a texture, or add some little embroidery detail. She has so many different variations. She has a really cool one I've done before where there's like a little bit of texture that's right in the middle where the arch of your foot is. That's sort of mimics some Nike socks that are, ready to wear socks. So that's really cool as well. So yeah, I recommend this pattern, and, despite my own sort of weaknesses with socks, I think they turned out really well. So my knitting whip is a very exciting whip for me. And it's pretty unusual. This is the Antipodes sweater by Andrea Mowry, which is her Rhinebeck sweater for this year. I have never been to Rhinebeck. I don't intend to go this year, and I've never made her Rhinebeck sweaters before. Sometimes I've admired them, sometimes I haven't liked them. This year's I really, really loved as soon as I saw it, and so I had cast it on. I bought it and cast it on the day that it was released because I really needed to know how this saddle shoulder was going to come out. I love it. I love it. I happen to have dyed in the wool already in my stash from a long abandoned other project that had color work. And so this is what I have so far. You can kind of see, sorry that the sun is bleeding through. I'll try to put a photo on the screen that looks a little bit better. But you can see the saddle shoulder construction is really, really cool. I started over here. You work the whole saddle across. You work the whole saddle across like that, and then you pick up for the back where you unfortunately do have to knit a few repeats of the chart flat in color work. So you can see it's really twisted since it's stockinette, but it's there's the first part of the chart right there. And then you end up picking up for the front, you do some shoulder shaping, and then you connect, which is literally right where I am. And then there's more shaping that goes into the front, and then you also do the color work flat. Then you join it all in the round and you do color work in the round. So it's really, really cool, very fun construction. I am using a combination of just fun, scrappy dyed in the wool that I already had. So it's a combination of like Ghost Ranch, Good Earth, a couple others that I'll put on the screen. But it's really, really been fun so far. And the construction is one that I'm really enjoying. I do love a drop shoulder anyway. And the combination of like the saddle shoulder construction, the top down nature of the drop shoulder, and the stripes was really addictive. Like, I finished the saddle shoulder faster than I finished anything in a really long time because it was so fun and so exciting to see the colors change. And then the color work in the round is going to be very exciting. It's a pretty simple but very graphic motif, and so I think it will be pleasurable to make. And then you get to do a little bit more striping in the sleeves. So I think this is a very fun project. I think I mentioned, so I already had dyed in the wool, but I also had enough of a main color of this Fibre Co Amble. The color is Egremont. So it's sort of this like really nice brown, but brown with nice tones. And I already had several skeins of it. Unfortunately, the fiber company is no longer producing yarns, which is really sad because Amble, which is what this is, has become my favorite sort of go-to like sport weight. It's technically a fingering weight, but it really gives sport weight energy. And it blooms really nicely. It's what I've used in my Shiftigan, and I've used it for a couple of other projects. So I really, really like it. And I happen to have it. And I think it goes really, really well and is very moody with these dyed-in-the-wool colors. So because I had everything already, I just went ahead and cast on. Let's do a brief interlude of some fiber that I'm spinning right now. So I don't have anything like finished to show you because it's on my spinning wheel, and I'm probably gonna do it as a chain ply. But this is from Keira Wiggins. This is some spinning fiber that I got in her mystery club last year. I was like, you get this little 50-gram bump of fiber every month. And this color, I just love. I love all the little bits. There's like some glittery, nylon in there that's just really, really glows. But it's really, really, really pretty. And that's what I'm spinning right now. It will be a chain ply. And so that way it can stay all this color and have really nice subtle tonal changes as it becomes a 50-gram skein of yarn. And I have kind of an idea of what I want to do with it. I want to potentially pair it with some other fiber that I have from Keira Wiggins that I haven't spun yet in a color combination that looks really good together. So I might see about doing all of it in chain ply, so that it'll be about a 3-ply, and they'll all stay kind of the colors that they are, but then knit them together in a project. Possibly a cowl, because I think that's a nice size for essentially 200 grams finished of four 50-gram bumps of fiber. I think that's really nice and also like pretty wearable. So I might do, something that's the shape of sort of like a Sophie shawl that starts really narrow, kind of gets a little bit bigger and then becomes narrow again, but knit from side to side so that you have control over the yardage that you need. So I'll probably do something like that. So that's kind of what I have in mind. I'm loosely doing Tour de Fleece, only in the way that I like watching the Tour de France. And so I got my spinning wheel back out and I'm spinning some fiber. That's literally the extent of my involvement. But I like the inspiration, I like the motivation, and I've actually been spinning. So that's very, very fun. I really got the sewing itch and I've been back into my sewing and I've been finishing some stuff. I'd kind of been on a lull. I don't know if it was just like really hot and I wasn't sewing, or I was feeling, body changes. And so I was like, well, do I want to make something and then have it not fit me? There were a lot of reasons why I was sort of stalling, and fabric is really expensive. So I feel very precious with every make. But I finished a few things and I'm really excited to show them to you. So first up is my Chanterelle Pants View A. So in the last podcast, I talked a lot about how I had sort of cut out a bunch of things and nothing was done yet. I have several of those finished items now to show you, starting with my Chanterelle Pants View A. I have made the Chanterelle pants many, many times since they came out in 2022, but I've only ever made the barrel leg View B or the shorts View C. So this is View A. I previously made a pair earlier this year for my hair stylist. We did a skill swap, and when I made these for her in some beautiful linen, I was super jealous, and so I knew I needed to make a pair for myself. These are so comfortable and also a little bit like glamorous. I feel very chic when I wear these. And yes, they are made of bed sheets. This is literally linen that used to be a bed sheet. So, and yet somehow I feel super glamorous in them. I think these turned out really, really well. They have great back pockets. They have great side pockets on the front, and the way the front pockets are, they're nice and deep, and they're built onto the pant, which is my favorite. If they're just sort of dangling in the inseam, they get really lumpy, especially in linen or a linen blend, every time you want to wash them, and you have to continually like lay them flat again. What I love about the Chanterelle View A and View B for that matter, and the Saguaro pants from the Saguaro set by Friday Pattern Company, is that they stay put. So you don't have to continually be like messing with lumpy pockets when you wash your pants. This is a pattern by So Liberated, and I will definitely be making more of these. Really, the only reason that this first pair was in bedsheet was because, one, I knew I wanted a pair of linen pants. I thought gray was a great neutral. And two, it does take more yardage than View B, or obviously than the shorts. And so I was a little bit nervous to make a pair and not necessarily love them if I was going to be using a lot of fabric. So this was a really great, essentially wearable toile, but it's like hardly that, because I knew I would love them, but they're just really, really well-fitting pants, and I cannot recommend the Chanterelle pants more. I'm going to talk about another of my favorite patterns later in this episode, but like the Chanterelle pants, well, they're probably second in my all-time most remade patterns, and the first one I'll get to later. But basically, these are winners. All three views are fantastic and so wearable and very good instructions, and they're just like, I even think pretty beginner friendly because they're elasticated waist pants. So you get to learn how to make pants, and you get to do it in a way that's like gonna fit you pretty forgivingly, and the sewing is pretty forgiving too. So all around great pattern. My next finished object was also just a pile of pieces during my last episode, and that is my Falconer pants. So here's some footage of me bopping around in my Falconer pants and generally loving every minute of this combination of colors and the texture of this fabric and everything about this fit. This is a pattern by Helen's Closet, and it is another winner. Like, in fact, this is a great combination of patterns. Like, if you want to make pants and you haven't before, try Chanterelle. And then if you want to make pants with like a waistband with belt loops and a zipper, like a fly, make these Falconer pants. The Falconer pants come in two views. There is a wide leg and there is a barrel leg. I did make the barrel leg, and I like the wide leg, but I thought in this texture of this material, so the fabric that I used is a gabardine. It's by Atelier Brunette Gabardine. I don't know if that's like the company name or the supplier. I got this from Farmer's Daughter Fibers online, but it is the color Pecan Pie, and it has that classic gabardine like texture. So it very much feels like a pair of jeans, but it's not denim, which if you're watching this and you know me, you know that I don't really wear jeans. So this is a great way for me to have jeans. And it has a nice deep cuff. It has really beautiful finishing details. As you can see probably in the photos, it has these nice like side panels with pockets. And then of course it has belt loops. So what I do like about this is that even though it does have a more structured waist and needs to, like, you want to make sure it fits you, it's really forgiving if it's a little too big because you have the waistband. And so that's really nice. Another fantastic thing about this pattern is that there's a point in the pattern where she says, stop right here and go ahead and seam together. You have 5 different seams you can manipulate as you're doing this to make sure it's a good fit before you continue. So you do the fly first, you get all of this difficult zipper stuff out of the way, and then basically when you're going to put the pants together, you have the front seam and the back seam, on both legs, and then you have your inseam. And you can go ahead and baste all 5 of those seams and put them on your body and see at that point if they're fitting right, or if you want them to be a little looser, in which case you just rip out the seams and you make smaller seam allowance, or I want them a little smaller, and then you can just increase your seam allowance, and then you finish the seams and then you sew them down. So it's really, really beautiful. And so the design of them just means that, I just think it's so forgiving and so well written. One downside to the pattern, just logistically, is that you can't, it's both a pro and a con. Because the waistband is so well fitted to a body, you can't cut it in half. Like normally if there's a waistband piece, it'll say cut the waistband on the fold, and then you unfold it and it's one big waistband piece. This waistband is one continuous piece, and it's really well designed to fit a body. And so it's just, you have to lay it flat, which means it does need like a wide swath of your fabric. And that could be problematic depending on if you wanted to use like a 45-inch wide fabric, for example, as opposed to like a 55 or 60-inch garment width fabric. So probably you could just like cut it out of 2 pieces and then just do a seam down the middle. But you need 2 of the waistband because it's double-sided. And so that was a little bit hairy with me. I was just being a little bit picky, but like if I wanted it to be on the grain line of this gabardine, it was going to be potentially a little bit of an issue. So I was kind of cutting it close, but I also try to be very fabric MacGyver-y, and I'm always trying to figure out like how little fabric I can actually use to stay on grain line. And so I'm sneaky like that. I also used one of my old buttons from my collection, which is just one of the old, like I keep them from old garments. So like this one just has Gap, which I used to work at Gap. So also used to work at American Eagle. Shout out if you ever worked in a mall. But I love these pants. I love the way they feel on my body. I'm going on a trip upcoming and I can't wait to wear them. These are another winner. I think, like I said, if you're thinking about making pants, either of these patterns would be really, really awesome ones to think about. All right, I have 2 more items in the finished garment stack. One is my factory dress. So on the last episode, this was also a pile of fabric cut out, and now it is a dress. And I will put some footage of myself out to the side here. This is, I said on the last episode that I couldn't remember why I hadn't made a second one of these after I finished my first version in 2020. And then I made another and I remembered why I maybe wasn't keen to jump right back into it. This is a pattern by Merchant and Mills, and I don't love the instructions. I think this is billed as an advanced beginner. I think an advanced beginner would be so confused making this. There's a lot of things unsaid. So if you didn't know to like turn something under or trim your seam allowance or finish a seam, you just wouldn't. So it's quite confusing. Like it's just gonna say like sew your bust starts. So if that's not the level of sewing that you're at, I would not make this dress. That said, it's not a complicated construction. It's actually pretty simple of a construction, but it's just not necessarily going to be, I think it's intermediate sewing for sure. So one of my favorite things I love about this, so I made this in a really beautiful window pane, as you've probably already seen out to the side. I did reverse the pocket so it would look a little bit different. I really love the collar. I think it's like a really chic way of just wearing a collared shirt that's still a little bit feminine. I really love the folded cuff at the sleeve. And I also love the kind of more boxy 1940s cut at the waist. So there's just a few tiny little pleats, and then there's pockets on the inseam. So I used a black window pane linen that I got from a fabric shop that I visited when I was visiting Kansas City. And I really loved this linen. I think it's 100% linen. It has a really good drape. And so when I first got it, actually, I got it to try to make myself a pair of the View A Chanterelle, the wide leg pants. And then when I got home, I realized that I hadn't bought enough yardage. So especially for the wide leg version, which is what I wanted to try, I wasn't gonna have enough yardage. And so I had to pivot and basically figure out what else could I use this on. And around the same time, I was trying on things in my closet that I had made many years ago. And so I was sort of revisiting some old patterns and revisited this one and decided that this one deserved another version. So I'm really pleased with how this came out. One thing you'll notice, I actually did literally not fussy cut, but fussy sew that front seam. There is a front seam. Let me see if I can show you. There is a front seam right here down the middle, and I matched the plaid. So I think it looks really nice and seamless. And then there's also a facing on this neckline. So you can see this part right here is actually the facing, and the facing continues all the way down to the where the bodice meets the skirt. And so right here is the facing as well. I always stitch my facings down because life is too short. This pattern just has you like have this big old facing just loose in your garment. Absolutely not. So I always stitch mine down. I don't care if you can see it on the front because this is black, you really can't see it. But that is, you know, we can't have our garments frustrating us, and I can't be pressing this all the time. So that is the factory dress, and those are my notes on the pattern. I think I also made the size 18, which is the pattern pieces that I had cut out many, many years ago. It's a UK size 18. I don't know if I think that's a little bit different, but that is my factory dress, and I do love it. I've been wearing it to work. It's a perfect summer work dress. So my next finished object is what I was alluding to earlier. It's my most made pattern, and that is the Kalle. This is a pattern by Closet Core Patterns. It is a shirt, but it's also a shirt dress. And as you will have hopefully seen on the screen, I did finish this. The shirt I'm showing you right now does not yet have its buttons. I've already made the buttonholes, but I just have not sewed the buttons onto it yet. As you can see, I have this nice little, this is from not having enough fabric. So I love to do this if I can put a little contrast inside yoke. And then I also did contrast under the collar. So the under collar is also this nice bright green. And part of the reason why I also added those two details is because this fabric has been a struggle for me. So I actually think it looks cute on me. And I tried it on the other day with some black shorts, and it was really stylish. But the color of it just with my skin has sort of been a bummer. And I bought this, it's a crinkle cotton that I bought from Melanated Fabrics, which was a local fabric store that used to be here in Atlanta. They have since gone on to different business ventures, but at the time I was getting a lot of garment fabric, and so I got this color. I thought the puce kind of color was very much, again, like kind of my colors. But then when I got home, I was like, oh, do I want to wear this? Anyway, the point is I do, but I also bought it at the same time that I bought this color fabric, which was in a different project that I didn't like. That's a whole saga for a different episode, but the combination I really loved. And so I thought, what a nice way to have them be not too flashy, but just a little bit of a nod to, they look really great together. So the Kalle is just like a drop sleeve. Oh, I don't know the name for that. Maybe it's dolman, but basically like there's not a grown on sleeve on this pattern. It's just a front that has an angle, a front that has an angle, a back piece that has an angle. There is a yoke. This, you do make a yoke. It's like a proper dress shirt. You can do the back pleat, both boxed or inverted. So you can have it be also, this is a box pleat. This is an inverted pleat. So you can basically just which side you want out. The inverted makes it be a little more, I don't even know if you'd call it form-fitting, but then the box pleat makes it even boxier on the outside. So depending on how you want it to fit, that's customizable. It also traditionally has a high-low hem. On this one, I specifically cut the low hem for the back way less dramatic. So you'll see in the pattern, it's a really dramatic hem. And I find that like I don't need that much fabric at my backside, and so I just don't do it as much. And same on the shirt dress, it has the high-low hem, and I've just played around over the years, the different times that I've made it with different extremes of the hem. I've made this pattern more than I've made any other pattern. The sleeves also have this nice little like sleeve hem. This pattern has a band collar, which I've made that version. It has a pop-over placket, which I've made that version. And it has the standard collar. I've made that version. I've made all the iterations of this pattern. I've also done the standard facing that she has you do on this very nice split hem, which would be visible, which would have been an opportunity to maybe do more of this. But I think that the facing is very, very finicky because it's such a strange shape all the way around. And so I've done this before, actually. I just finish it off with my serger, and then I just tuck the hem up. Doesn't bother me at all. Much faster. So these are like workhorses for me. I think when I was first learning to sew, now that I know how to make more things, I actually was reading these instructions again, and I have some notes. I think there are some parts that are pretty tough for like an advanced beginner. But then again, even at the time when these weren't coming out, when my colors weren't coming out quite as pretty as this one, I was still making these, and I was still making them and wearing them. So I've made them as like a tunic. I've made them as a summer dress. I've made 2 at least for my mom. I've made 1 for my friend for watching my cats one year. I made another one for my other friend because she's my bestie. There was probably something else there, but the point is I have made this a lot, probably close to 20 times. So yes, I love this pattern. And I think I'm falling back in love with it, and we'll probably make another one. So, you know, if we're going to go ahead and say it here on the podcast, I probably, now that I've finished this one, I'll probably make another. I haven't made a Kalle in a long time because I was really falling in love with doing other more advanced dress shirt patterns that do have grown-on sleeves, and things like the Cornell shirt by LB Textiles. I've made that several times too, and that's a really nice pattern as well. But there's something so chic about the Kalle and the shape of it, and the flexibility of the different styles that you can do, that I really love it. And I should also say, like, I started this shirt over a year ago, probably even longer. Like I cut out the pieces, and then it like laid there for 6 months. And then in a burst one weekend, probably, I sewed most of it, but I got stalled at the hem because I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. And so I didn't have the hem, the sleeve, the little sleeve cuffs, or the collar on it. And then the other night, I literally took about 90 minutes and just did all those things. And then today I made the buttonholes, and probably tonight I'll sew the buttonholes on while I'm watching TV or something, or sew the buttons on while I'm watching TV. So that's my Kalle. This is another shirt that I mentioned I'm about to go on a trip. And so I do plan to bring this and wear it with my black shorts, and it should be very, very cute. Here's the Kalle. Here's what it looks like. Here are the different versions. You can see the difference between the inverted pleat and the box pleat. And you can also see here the popover placket versus the full placket. And then you can easily see here the little facing versus the, well, they all three have a high-low hem, but lots of people have done like straight across hems, which work great. Some people have done less of a high-low, but a lot of people have, maybe even if they flatten it, they'll still have a little slit up the side. So this is just a really, really great, like, what an awesome pattern. Okay, one more quirky sewing thing I wanted to show you is recently I bought a t-shirt at a brewery, and it already came sleeveless, which was brilliant because it's hot where I live and I have a lot of t-shirts, but sometimes I want to have a tank top because I pretty much only work out in tank tops. I cannot go outside or sweat in here really in sleeves. And so it already came sleeveless, and the way they did it was by cutting off the sleeve, like following the shape of the sleeve, and then tucking the extra fabric that would be out here that would form the arm side, right? That would look kind of awkward, but kind of to make it more muscly like this, you just tuck it under and stitch it right there on, so that when you look at it from the front, it's sleeveless. And then, and before you do that, you just finish off. So I literally cut the sleeve off, finished it with my serger, and then stitched it down using a little white thread and zigzag, and then sewed it here. I mimicked that shirt. So I bought it, it was already done that way at the brewery. I loved it. So I used it on my little FIFA World Cup shirt that I got because we had 8 matches of the World Cup this year in Atlanta. And so I didn't go to any, but I, participated in the vibes and watched the matches at restaurants. And so I thought the shirt was really, really cool. And it has all the cities on there as well. And so by making this is just a t-shirt, this is just my t-shirt, but I wanted to share this because it seemed like a really cool, very simple mod to do. And obviously, it's convenient that I have a serger, but you could leave that raw if you wanted and just sew it down. I think it would work fine. And then of course, in true fashion, I also cropped it. So this is an unfinished seam. I literally just cut my t-shirts and let them roll. So this is really, really cute, and I wore it to the Fan Fest. We did go to a Fan Fest here in Atlanta and watched 2 of the semifinal matches, quarterfinal matches. Anyway, we watched some of the big games at Centennial Park, and I wore this, and it was really fun. Great modification to make if you're a person who has t-shirts but wants them to be tank tops. So last but not least, because it was really helpful to me last time when I said aloud some things that I want to make next, I'm just going to share briefly one work in progress and then one hopes and plans. My work in progress is the Duplantier dress by LB Textiles. I love a baby doll cut dress. I especially love it in the winter with leggings, but I'm more and more embracing wearing just sort of legs out summer stuff in the summer too. And so the LB Textiles has really great, really ingenious, chic and smart design options. And then the way that things come together always feel kind of like magic. I've made her Wyland tank several times and it's kind of magic. So I'm making this one as well, which has a really pretty finished lining, bodice with lining on the inside, but then really pretty dramatic sleeves and a V-neck or a V shape that goes into the skirt part. I'm making it out of Fabulism fabric. The pattern is just called Southwest, and it's noted that it's pink. So it's Southwest pink Fabulism fabric. I bought it in 2025 from my local to me online fabric store, Stash Fabrics. And I kind of have been saving my Fabulism fabric because it's a little quirky, but not just in pattern, but also it's texturally kind of interesting to work with and not as wide as standard garment fabric. And so that's been a little bit tricky for me to figure out what to make where I can really use every last bit of what I bought, but also make it something that I'm going to wear because the patterns are quite intense. So to me, this Duplantier dress is going to be really fun. And I've cut out the pieces. They're right back here tucked under this other project. But that is going to be coming soon. I'm really excited to be working on that. And I'll give a little review of how the pattern goes once I'm done with it. And then the final item that I plan to make, but only just right now have, I've pre-washed the fabric, but I haven't cut it out yet, which is another studio tunic. So the studio tunic is a pattern by So Liberated that I also have made. I've made twice before. Maybe I'll put a little photo of me up here in my studio tunics. The second one that I made was out of a really beautiful like washed linen from Blackbird Fabrics, and I wear it all the time. It's one of my colors, it's an olive green, and I even took the time to hand sew the facing on the neckline, which is a suggestion that they give you. And I really love that detail as well. And I think that a tunic is just extremely wearable, and I wear it all the time, summer, fall, winter, and spring. And so I'm excited to have another one. And I saw one recently by Young Folk Knits where she had done it in like a sand-washed off-white denim, and it looked like the perfect weight. So my linen one, I can tell I wear it so much that it's actually kind of wearing a little bit, and so that makes me nervous. And so I'm like, I need to have a second one in rotation so that I'm not wearing this one all the way out. The linen does get thin over time. So the denim was like perfect. And I dug up I found where she cited what fabric she used. And she used a midweight white denim from Matchy Matchy Sewing Company. And so I've not purchased from them before, but this was my first time. So I purchased the exact fabric that she used, which is what you can see kind of right behind my serger there. And so I'll be cutting that out and making another one. So those are the projects that I'm going to be working on next at my sewing machine, and I will have them for you to share hopefully when I next record. So thank you for spending some time with me today. I hope that my makes have been somewhat inspiring to you. I love coming onto YouTube because it's what I get inspiration from, and I love hearing people's takes on patterns, on what fabric they used, and how things turned out for their body, whether they would make something again, whether they have made something 100 times. I love that information, and I also love learning about people's finished objects, knitting, sewing, spinning, other sewing projects. I love it all. So I hope that you found something inspiring today, and if not, I hope that you just got some company while you were working on something fun. So wishing you the best. See you next time.